All right, Florida, it is state tournament week. I am here with Jake Campbell. Jake, how are things going?
Things are good, man. A big week for the boys and the girls. It's going to be exciting times down in Kissimmee.
Yeah. I know you've been away from the mat a little bit, but I mean, what was this week like, kind of prepping the kids, getting ready?
When I coached, right? I mean,
Yeah,
yeah. When we just focused on us. I mean, that's the only thing you can control anyway, right? Just focus on your prep. You know what you've done all year. I mean, we had such a good run at Tampa Prep with state champs and all that. We just focused on us. I know a lot of times people freak out about the bracket. We'll always complain that they should seed this thing and all this other stuff, but control the controllables, and that's all we did. And so we just prepped like it was just another day.
yeah. So, one of the things that I found really interesting is I've written fans guides for all these, and one of the things that I always kind of I come back to, obviously the team races are really interesting. You look at kind of the youth movement and some of the classifications. We'll talk about that. But one of the things that always stuck with me, and I know you had some studs at Tampa Prep, so maybe you didn't encounter this as much, but the kids who have come in who are seniors who have been on the podium but have never won a title before. Did you have any of those? And what was kind of the message to those kids?
Yeah, I mean, we had one that really sticks out for me, and you probably remember him. He was our 113 pounder, Ben Bueller,
Yeah.
right? He was a kid that was probably picked by you guys to win it 2 years in a row, and it just didn't work. And then his senior year, we got it to all come together. And I don't think he was actually picked to win it that year. I think the LHP, I think it was Waltman was picked to win it, and then we wrestled him in the finals and win it. So yeah, I mean, you always have that senior that you want to end it right? That's all you think about. Let's just end this thing right. And he was the one that sticks out the most.
Yeah, well, and we're gonna talk about some brackets here in a little bit where there's gonna be a lot of seniors and there's only one spot. There's only one opportunity to be on the top step. So, man, I feel the pressure. I mean, I know I coached several kids that it was very heartbreaking when when that kind of came to an end. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's tough, man. I think you just you touched on it. It's heartbreaking, but listen, if you've prepared the right way, win or lose, you just you accept the result. And this sport teaches you life lessons too, right? And so there's always something to take from it. Some of the kids I know that didn't win state titles for us are doctors, lawyers, and just fabulous humans. And a lot of
Right.
them talk about wrestling being a main reason why. I actually, funny you bring that up about seniors. I follow a lot of wrestlers on LinkedIn, things like that. They're all, a lot of them that when I coach are now entering the workforce. And Alex Uri, who wrestled for St. Thomas Aquinas, one of the things he posted on his LinkedIn was, he was always favored to win it, and he got knocked off by one of those freshmen his senior year by the name of Kyle Nordstrom. And so it's kind of one of those things, right? It's just but he talked about just where his life is now, and he thanked wrestling from it. And the picture he posted was him laying on the mat, and it's Kyle flexing, and so it's just
Yeah.
amazing to see that. I tell anyone, if you follow, if you're in the workforce or not, check out LinkedIn, go to Alex Uri. It's a gut wrenching. I remember watching that match, and so it struck a chord with me this morning just seeing it.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I'm going to touch very quickly on this before we jump into one of these classifications, and that is we're talking about some seniors, but not high school seniors. You're going to be at EIWAs this weekend,
Yep.
cheering on and watching some of your former kids who are now seniors compete up there.
Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, we're going to go up to EIWAs. Obviously, a lot of people, put Tampa Prep and myself and Andy Bricker, who coached there with Anthony Artolona, right? And so he'll be trying to win his second EIWA title. Won one as a freshman. Obviously, being at Penn, they lost a couple COVID years. Took second last year to Yanni Diakomahalis, and
Slack.
he'll be he'll be in he'll be in the mix this year. But not only that, I'm excited to just see a lot of the Florida kids who are in the IWA. That'll be Malik Hines, Leo Tarantino, Jack Crook, just kind of the who's who of the last 5-10 years of Florida wrestling, and so I'm excited to see all those guys, try to punch their ticket to Tulsa.
All right. Yeah. So that's going to be exciting for you. I will be in Kissimmee. It's going to be a blast down there. Just so everybody knows, Jake and I are going to break down each of the brackets, but this is a general intro that I'm going to then splice on top of us having a conversation about one of these groups. So if stick with us. If you tuned in for the girls, 1A, 2A, 3A, it'll start in a second. Jake, you ready to get started on one of these?
Let's rock, man.
All right, man. We are now doing 2A. And, last year, boy, Jesuit, and they had 5 champs. Impressive. I don't think we'll see that in 2A this year.
No, I don't think so either. I mean, those 5 champs, I think all 5 are wrestling Division 1 now as well. No,
Lermer's back, but other than that,
Lermer,
yeah, the 4 are.
Yeah. four wrestling Division 1. Yeah, I mean that was a unique year. I mean, those are like for coaches, those are like dream years, right? You just got stud after stud, and you show up to the state tournament, and you're like, and you just know, hey, that guy's getting to the top of the podium, and so is that guy and his brother. And but I think this year is unique. I think Lake Gibson's your favorite, right? They got to be your favorite, and then it'll be interesting to see how this plays out with like Fleming Island, right? I'm curious to see what happens with them. I'm missing someone in there. Brandon's gonna
Charlotte.
Yeah, Charlotte is who I was thinking of. They always just. I was just having a talk with my old coach, and he's just like, "How's Charlotte this year?" And I always say, "I mean, they get to the state tournament, and sometimes their worst kid, might take 5th or 6th. Like they just have tough kids.
They do,
and they're deep as well." Fleming Island, and then you're gonna have some of the Brandon Jesuit. They each have a couple studs in there that I would assume is gonna.
Well, and we got Clay coming up from 1A.
Yep. Yeah, Clay as well. So some of those will have a say, right, and the team race as well, even if it's just plain spoiler.
Yeah. All right. So you think Lake Gibson's the favorite, not Fleming Island, based upon the duels? Is that why?
Yeah, duels, and I mean, I saw Lake Gibson have a really good knockout as well. They wrestled pretty well there, and that was sort of being a little undermanned when they lost Hayden Whedon throughout that as well. And so, I mean, and I think they got a few horses too. I think that matters, right? So I think it's only a depth thing, but it's they got a couple horses that I think are clear-cut favorites to win their bracket.
All right, so let's jump into this. In 2A, 2A is a little interesting compared to some of the other classifications because only 4 returning champs come back in 2A. Now, all those Jesuit kids, well, 4 of the 5 Jesuit kids who were champs, like you said, are now wrestling D1. We also had graduation from lots of others. So we'll have some new faces on top of the podium this year in 2A, which will be fun. All right, so at 106 pounds, kind of a wild, wild west. And to be fair, 106 is kind of a wild, wild west a lot of times because we don't see a lot of returners at 106 pounds. You got Roberto Rodriguez, I think is the only returning placer in the weight for Brandon. You got Jacob Bucci from Clay, Tim McLean, who was a state qualifier last year, Wolf, who was a state qualifier, lots of other individuals in the group. But how much does that being a returning state placer and the only returning state placer make Rodriguez the favorite?
I think it's that, and he's a senior at 106 too. So I think that it's twofold. Not only is he the only returning placer, he's grown man, at 106, and I think that matters too. And he's pretty good. He's good too. So
yeah.
When it comes, he kind of checks the boxes. He's good. He's a senior, and and he's the favorite. So,
all right. Moving to 113 pounds. Interesting weight class because you have a returning state champ in Roman Lermer, who I think beat Cameron French in last year's state final. But right. French has beaten Lermer this year.
Right.
So You also have Elijah Lowe. You got other individuals, Daniel Caceres in the group, uh, a little Frejea, Robert Albert, but Cameron French really based upon beating Lermer at least twice. I mean, he looks like the favorite in the group.
Yeah, sort of an interesting to me first round match is Lermer versus the Fleming Island kid. Like that kid's tough. I'm a butcher that last name. We'll call
Oh,
you Shane. You know.
so I learned how to say it at the tools. Do hey lungsa.
Do hey Longside. All right, Shane. So uh, that's an interesting first round match, right? I'm curious because whoever loses that match, it wouldn't shock me if they came all the way back through and like took third, right? They're on the backside just ripping through everybody. And so you could easily see that happen. Um, listen, I figure Lermer is well coached. I'm very familiar with the Jesuit kids. It's well coached over there. I think he figures it out, gets to the final. And if he beats French, I'm gonna say he beats French in the final.
Okay. Wow. All right. I think that might be. I mean, given the fact that French has beaten him a couple of times this year, that's a bold pick, I think. But you never know. I mean, he did
What do
beat
I
him
know?
last year, so
What do I know?
hey, you know what? We're talking wrestling. Hopefully, nobody takes it seriously, and that we're educated, but we're also, like I said, in one of the other ones, who knows how this will all play out?
It's
You
high
know,
school kids, man. Anything
correct,
can happen. I mean, you know, they're high school kids. They're kids. You know, anything can
right,
happen. So
right. Jump up to 120 pounds. We have the return of Christian Fretwell, who won it 2 years ago at Somerset and then left. You got Caden Ballinger, Alex McMiller, Kobe Shields, Enos Lajokovic. I think that's how you say his name. Some really good
yeah,
wrestlers in the group, but Fretwell has looked fantastic.
yeah, it's Fretwell's to lose. You know, I think. I just think. I mean, he's just with all due respect to all the others, right? I mean, I just think he's the best of the group. I mean, even the match with him and Janeiro from Jitson Beach in the knockout finals was it's a fun match to call. You know, he wrestled extremely tough, extremely smart. He's been around. I'm very familiar. Fretwell, another kid that used to roll into our club quite often, and so glad to see him back home in Florida. So
Yeah, I agree with that. Glad to see him back here. All right, so jump into 126. You have the returning, one of the few returning state champions into and Maximus Brady from Mariner, Colt Brown, Gregory Mendez, Laird Duhay's Lungsod, a lot of other wrestlers in this mix. But man, returning state champion at 113 pounds, Maximus Brady. How do you think this was going to play out? And is there a match that you kind of are looking forward to?
I think Brady's the dude. He's tough, man. Again, another guy I got to watch up close and personal at Knockout. Stingy with every point. He just nails. I mean, he's a tough kid, and so
Did you call it a semifinal match, or what do you think?
yes, yeah. Who I forgot did oh he wrestled
Did he wrestle Jarvis Little from Summit, or
no oh man he
who
just won
won?
a
Who won
state title.
26?
Two-time knockout champ. I know that.
Wow, I don't know. I'm blanking it. I'll get it in a second.
Last name with a C. I can't think of his name.
Can you tell me his school?
Blue. Blue singlet. I know that for a fact. I hate myself that I can't remember because I Cass. No, Cass. Was he Cass?
Oh, Jake Craps.
Kraft.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So
Man, I'm such an idiot. Sorry, Jake. He won't even see
yeah,
this, but
same
that's
here,
okay.
man. Because he was one of my favorites as well at Knockout. But I think that's Brady's only loss is to Jay Caps. And so again, another guy or Brady just tough as nails. And he's my pick.
All right. So at 132 pounds, um, again, one of those weights that were, I mean, it's kind of disappointing that we see Paradin and Phillips on the same side. You doing okay?
Yeah, get my dog real quick, man.
It's all good. No worries. Hey, you know what? We're just having a conversation. So you got Paradin and Phillips on the same side. Both are state runners up, right?
Yeah, one more time.
Yeah, no problem. So at 132, you got Jace Paradin,
Right, right.
Ryan Phillips, same side of the bracket. Both state runners up last year. Again, not to take anything away from Anthony Dix, Jonathan Martinez Mercado on the bottom side, but that's likely would be your finals if you were seeding the tournament.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I like Jace Paradon personally. That's who I like. Man, God, I agree with you. Phillips is tough.
He is tough, and yeah.
Yeah, yeah, man, that's one of those. It'd be nice if they were separated, right? And so, um, I like Paradon to come through.
All right. So jumping up to 138 pounds, somebody you might know probably pretty well, being over in the Tampa area, Draven McCall
Yep.
from Jesuits, got Garrett Marshka, Childs, Gabriel Bahia from Heritage, Austin Chung from Tampa Freedom. And I don't know if you know him very well, but he took the Region 2 championship over Thomas Gernhardt
Right.
from Brandon. So, I mean, he's
Yeah.
got to be tough.
Yeah, I think McCall's got a head-to-head over all of them, though. If
Okay.
I might be wrong there. I think he's beat Chung. I think he's beat Gerhardt as well. So, I'm
But
curious
not
about
necessarily, but not necessarily Marshka or Bahia.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
McCall's my guy, man. That's my favorite. He had a little bit, didn't wrestle particularly well at knockout. I was there for that. Kind of had a rough go at it there, but sort of been on a tear since then. Whether it's I think he kind of I think it was like a 13 or a 20 pounder last year, so he's gotten big as well, right? And so I think he filled wherever Lermer wasn't last year. I can't remember, but
Lermer
um,
was low. Lermer was only
as well.
6.
So maybe he was 13, and so you go from 13 to 38. Maybe he kind of grew into the weight, right? And I just feel like he's been on a tear lately. So he's my pick to win it. Curious about um, the Child's Kit guy, Mark. How you say it? It's a coach's son.
Marshka? Yeah,
Marshall.
Garrett. Yeah,
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 Garrett.
Marshka. Mhm.
Um, you know, we don't see them very often, right? And so
Yeah.
um, I'm curious that match is going to be interesting in the semis. Not, but I like McCall.
Okay. Yeah, I think his dad wrestled for Flagler Palm Coast. So could be wrong. I think that was many, many years
I
ago.
know he's
Maybe
been
that
at
was
Childs for a while. I just couldn't remember. I just wasn't. I mean, we just don't see him very often. And I remember when I was at Tampa Prep, and we always saw him at Clay, and that was kind of about it. So
so move up to 145 pounds and if we're talking about seniors and being on the podium previously and never winning a title, I don't know that we can talk about anyone else besides Hayden Whitten,
right,
who has finished what second, third. I mean, he's been there. Was a little worried after he, obviously took it. He got dinged up at the knockout, but he's been back since. Beat Caden Schaefer at the
right.
duels. Some good other wrestlers in the group. So, what do you think?
Yeah, I like Hayden Whedon. Very familiar with him. We used to spend a lot of time at Lake Gibson, and so I
Is
remember
is it
Hayden.
Whedon, not Whitten? I don't know.
Uh, Chris,
You're,
don't hate me. It's Whedon today, So Chris is so. Um, but Hayden, I've known him since he was probably 8 or 9 years old. And so I just that's one kid that when we talk about seniors, he's due, kind of due, and always been at in his case, right? He's always been at just the toughest weights with like whether
he
it's weight,
has.
yeah, and I mean, and he's lost like triple overtime matches, whether it's I think Andrew Austin, stuff like that. He's just been in um, doesn't avoid competition. Let's just put that, because he's kind of at a position at Hayden at Lake Gibson. He probably could have picked his weight, right, and kind of just went what was best for the team, even if it wasn't best for him. And so, but I mean, you're losing triple overtime matches, coin flip, you probably win it, but I like Hayden coming through.
All right. So jumping to 152 pounds, we have another Lake Gibson kid who was at Brandon previously, Johnny Maldonado. And you got Brandon Cody, who was at the Masters Academy, now at
Right.
Jesuits.
Right.
Both are state runners up. Again, I don't want to not mention Connor Edwards and Dylan Baroga, but the two state runners up and Cody and Maldonado definitely stand out. Have they seen each other this year? Do you know?
I don't believe so. I don't believe so. I don't
Not that
believe.
you know. Not that you know.
Yeah, I don't believe so. Listen, my pick's Maldonado. Again, another maybe a little bit of a. I don't think he's much of a homer. I think he's the best kid at the weight. You know, he's got some great wins on the year. Used to come over to our club again when he was a kid as well, and he was at before he got into high school, and just a tough kid. Doesn't get out of position. You know, I saw him at knockout. He had a tough match against Cooper. I think Cooper is either 2 or 3 of those losses of the 4, and so just a tough kid, and that's my pick. Him and Cody in the finals. I'll take Maldonado.
All right, so jumping up to 160 pounds. My biggest question as it relates to 160 and 195, because they're both returning state champions, is which one is the bigger favorite, Christopher Minto or Brian Berberich?
I'm biased. Berberia.
Okay, all right.
I'm biased. Yeah, but I've
But you would
spent
agree
time.
Minto is the favorite at 160.
Yeah, Minto, clear cut favorite. Awesome. You know, I'm just biased because Burberry is a Tampa Bay boy. So but yeah, at 160, I think it's Minto, a gap, everybody else.
All right, 170. Boy, we saw a fantastic Elijah Penton at the knockout. I think I read somewhere on Twitter that he hasn't given up a point this year. I don't know if that was true, if it was an offensive point or whatever the case is, but Penton has been fantastic. You got some good wrestlers in the weight class as well.
Right.
But is Penton the favorite based upon what you've seen?
Yes. 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 I mean, yeah, he beat Gunner, right, in the
Yeah.
final.
Yeah.
Yeah, he beat Gunner in the final at knockout. Again, right, that was a knockout final. I mean, I think I picked Gunner in my as my 3A pick, right, and so I just feel like a guy like Penton's just been tested over and over.
All right, so jumping to 182. Another Lake Gibson kid who has yet to climb on top of the podium. We talked about Maldonado earlier. We talked about Hayden earlier, Whitten earlier. Tito Solorzano, who also won the knockout, is at the weight. Some good wrestlers, Jesse Colas, Joshua Sandoval, Michael McCarthy, all returning state placers. And I think this is all of them are seniors. So
Right.
somebody's going to not walk away. So 3 of them are going to not walk away, or maybe 4 of them could not walk away with the state title. So who do you think is the favorite for the win?
I think Tito's the favorite, you know, from Lake Gibson. You know, 2-time knockout champ. Crazy, right? 2-time knockout champ and hasn't won a state title yet.
I know, isn't that crazy?
Yeah. So, I mean, um, you know, again, Tito, another kid I'm familiar with, known him since he was a little kid. So that's my pick. You know, he's the favorite, and he'd be my pick too. That McCarthy match is interesting though. He's tough. I think I think he's a football kid too. So it's sort of an athlete, right? And so I'm interested to see that semis. Even though I'll be watching it from Philadelphia. So
All right, so we already talked about 195 with Brian, who is an Air Force Academy commit
yep.
or signee. Super tough. Definitely the favorite at the weight, maybe the biggest favorite in 2A. Does any match stand out there to you or anything like that? Or you know, the match I'm going to throw out there is, and I think that I think it could be a real. I don't want to say who's going to win the first round, but if all goes the way according to plan, Brundage versus Nathaniel Box, I think is a really interesting quarterfinal of 195. Just starting. All right,
Yeah.
what do you think?
Yeah. Listen, I sometimes it's hard to look past such a heavy favorite, which like with Sawyer is such a heavy favorite and at that in that 3A bracket, Burberry is such a heavy favorite here. But yeah, I'll go with yours, man. I don't really have one. That's an interesting one for me.
All right, so let's jump to 2A 220. Another really interesting weight in that, like 182 with the list of the four seniors. We got quite a few wrestlers here. Robinson, Newton, Grubbs, Dylan York have all been on the podium previously. And at least for Robinson and Newton, they're seniors. Grubbs is a senior as well. York is a senior. Placers who are seniors who have been here, but only one is going to win a title, and maybe
Right.
not even one of the four.
Yeah. Listen, I'll say I'll go Fleming Island. All right, as the favorite. Is that Robinson, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
Robinson.
that's Robinson. Yeah.
So that'd be my guy. Again, he can wrestle with his coach, PJ Colbert, who was an okay wrestler himself, in his day. So
Not too shabby.
love PJ, big fan. So
All right, and then we get to 285, and 285 to me is really interesting because you've got Nate Gabriel and Ethan Hofstetter, who are your returning state placers. But if you look at Brandt's information, Brandt has Vincent Chavez from Port Charlotte as his number one ranked 285. And I think that's because Chavez has beaten Gabriel. So this one is wide open. I want to know who your favorite is here because I don't know that it's easy to pick.
I'm a lean on the Cobra wrestling guy, and go Vincent Chavez.
All right. All right. So that is your 2A, 106 to 285. Picking Lake Gibson to win. Is that right?
Yeah, I'll go Lake Gibson to win. Fleming Island is your runner up.
All right. Jake, I appreciate it. Everyone, be sure to check out one of the other girls, 3A, 1A. And yeah, like we said in a lot of the other ones, I just want to make sure that everybody notices this, and that is we're trying to talk wrestling, have a good time talking about all these kids have had a super years. They've gotten to the state tournament, wrestled exceptionally well, and now it's time to kick back and kind of watch kind of the last several matches of the entire season. What was kind of the message as you took your kids to that their final kind of time in the big arena?
I mean, just let it fly, have fun, especially if it's a senior, right? Just have fun. Let's let it fly. Especially and in some cases, right? We knew we had some kids that would be leaving for other reasons, right? Whether it's transferring out, like we coached so many different kids, whether it was Ashton Habil, who we knew wasn't returning to like Tampa Prep. So I was like, hey man, let's just have fun. Let's see what happens. Colin Nation, who we knew he was leaving for Japan at the end of the year,
Right.
So that was the same thing. We just wanted to have fun. And then with some guys like Anthony Ardalona and some of the ones that were sort of our legacy guys that were with us for 5, 6, 7 years in some cases, it was just kind of taking the moment in, right? Because this is it. This is kind of the last ride in one form or another. But just making sure they're ready, keeping them healthy. We don't want no, Verona ankle sprains that happen at the set. Like I didn't want any of that stuff, man. I was trying to avoid all the big guys. We never really had many heavyweights when I was around, so coaching. So avoid warming up next to the big guys out there, and just do what we've always done. Keep it simple and let it fly.
Right. I mean, you've been there before. You've been there and you've had a whole season under your belt. Now it's time to just go out and shine, right?
Yep.
Well, Jake, I appreciate you taking time, man. And hope you enjoy Philadelphia, and yeah, be watching from afar. We'll see how many you got right. Maybe we'll
Yeah,
have to do a post show to see
I
how
know.
many you actually got right.
I'm already wondering, how many parents are going to be mad, and how many kids are going to be like, Coach Campbell, you're wrong, but listen, boys and girls, wrestle tough, wrestle hard, have fun. At the end of the day, it's just wrestling.
Absolutely. Thanks, Coach.